Hey, this time during group leaders training, there was something that I did. I know many of you weren't able to make it this time, but there was some pieces that I think are absolutely vital to your success and really understanding the big picture of how your group just significantly impacts our entire church. And so I kind of wanted to get into the details of that with you. Many of you remember a couple Sundays ago I talked about to grow spiritually, you really just need to do three things. The first one you will remember is church attendance. Now, I'm going to talk about adults really right now, okay? Church attendance in our last group semester was 1,300 people, okay? 1,300 adults. Now, you'll remember one of the other parts of spiritual growth that are absolutely necessary are groups. Now, our groups in that semester, we had a little more than 900 people, okay? We also said that the third area of spiritual growth tool that you need is spiritual habits. We have right now a little over 800 people who are actively involved in their personal devotional life, i.e. we're delivering devotional content to them. Now, I would imagine there's at least 100 people that are doing their own thing devotionally. So I think this 900 number is probably about what we have in our congregation that are actively involved in a personal devotional life. Here's what's really interesting. We did some studies, and 900 is about the number of people who actively give at some level in our church, okay? So here's what I'm saying. Church attendance, there's about 1,300 that show up every Sunday. Spiritual habits, devotional life, about 900, giving, about 900, and groups, about 900. Now, this is not the number of people that attend our church. You know that, right? You know why? Because they never all show up at the same time, right? We have a word for that. It's called Easter, right? And it is about, in the research that we've done and churches have done around the country, the number of people that live in our community that call North Star home is about 2,400 people. Okay, maybe they come once a month, once every couple of weeks. But here's what I want us to understand. And let me pause here for a minute. Because many of you talk to people, and you may even believe this a little bit in the back of your mind, that because we are so focused on reaching people, that we are really not strong as a church in the area of discipleship. That is an absolute myth that I want to blow out of the water right now. Now, I've had the privilege through a ministry leader training organization called Church Leader Insights to consult with, to train, to be a part of literally hundreds of churches in America. And, okay, this is church attendance. This is about 60%. To have 60% of your church attendance weekly in groups is very rare. Now, lots of churches, I say lots, several churches do this effectively, and we're about even with them. However, I have never encountered a church that has these kind of numbers in attendance, 60% of that also in groups, and now think about this for a moment, and has 60% of their average church attendance actively involved in a devotional life, in the spiritual habits. Now, I'm sure there's some out there. I have never met a church with that level of spiritual maturity. Church attendance, 60% in groups, and 60% involved in spiritual habits. So if you are thinking, because here's what typical churches do, and this is understandably why people think this. Typical churches that are deep on discipleship, they have these people coming, they get some people in Sunday school or groups, and then they do this deeper teaching. They do more Bible studies. They do more teaching on Sunday night or Wednesday night, and they think that's discipleship. What is discipleship is when people are involved in groups, in spiritual devotional times, and in church attendance. So, I wanted to clear that up. You should be unbelievably encouraged specifically about how effectively your church is helping people to grow spiritually and follow Christ. But before we throw our shoulders out of joint, patting ourselves on the back, let me point something out that some of you have already gotten. What about the 1,500 people between 900 and 2,400? You know what's interesting? These 900 people are pretty much the same people. There are 1,500 people who attend our church. They say, North Star is my home, and they come in, and they go out. And you know they go out, right? You hear us talk about all these people that get saved and baptized, but if all of them stayed, like, we'd be doing 22 services, right, in the Civic Center. But we don't, because these 1,500 people keep coming in, and they don't get connected, and they go out. Now, let me explain something. Just because they come here, if you believe Jesus' parable, and I encourage you to believe actually all of Jesus' parables, of the soil and the sower, he said 3/4 of those people gladly received the gospel, but they didn't combine it with understanding, and they were not saved. There is a lot of these 1,500 people that come in, and if they don't get connected, will go out, and they will go to hell. This, like, we cannot allow, I mean, this is unbelievably encouraging, but there are 1,500 people cycling through our church, and will continue cycling through our church unless we get them connected. Now, I want you to think of a face right now. Because you know somebody like this, don't you? Like, you know somebody who attends our church, but is not really engaged in groups or in serving or in one of those areas. Just think of a face like that. In fact, while you're thinking of a face, I want you to hear the heart of this number from Marty.
I want to share with you an experience that really saddened my heart. Several months ago, I was asked to do a funeral for someone that was actually attending here at North Star. And I remember, because I love people and wanted to be able to help out, that I said yes. And I had the opportunity to sit down with the family and talk a little bit about the funeral and how we were going to operate and do it. And I remember the day of the funeral when I showed up. We were at a church that wasn't here at North Star. It was another church. And I met the family, prayed with them, and when the funeral started, I remember looking around and I didn't see anybody from North Star Church at this funeral. And I just remember thinking to myself in that moment, why is no one from North Star here? And as I got to know the family a little bit more and we talked a little bit, I realized that they weren't involved in a small group and really hadn't connected with anybody here at North Star. Although they were faithful and they attended on a regular basis, they just never really developed those relationships. And man, I got to be honest with you, like, my heart was just so broken over the fact that this family hadn't developed those relationships, because I realized in this moment that really and truly the only person they had that was really ministering to their family was me. And as I was driving back home that day, I just remember the sadness that I felt and how my heart broke over the fact that this family had not been connected at North Star. And so much so that I came back and talked to Roy and some of the staff, and just even shared with them that I really realized in that moment how critical and how important small group life is to our church and also to the individuals that are a part of our church. And it even caused me to reflect and just ask the question, who are the people that would be standing around my grave? And who are the people that would be there during those difficult moments of my life for my family? And I got to tell you, I realized the power and I realized the ministry that is involved through small group. And it really saddens my heart when people here at North Star don't have an opportunity to build those relationships and to do life together. And the reason that it saddens my heart is because I know that in some of the deepest and probably some of the most hurtful moments of their life, they're going to walk alone. And man, I never want that for anybody here at North Star.
And we don't want that. We don't want anybody to be alone. But here's the reality. Almost nobody will move from church attendance into a real, vibrant, consistent devotional life on their own. There's a few people who will sign up for a group because we promote it and we have them sign up on their connection card. But you and I both know that most of these people, unless someone personally approaches them and invites them out of a relationship to be in a group, will not be in a group. They will just cycle through. By the way, this is why we do semester-based systems, where we start and we stop. Now, there's this piece where it kind of flows with the way God's created us for tension and release. But it's more than that. If you had a group and your group kept growing in depth and closeness, and we tried to get all these new people coming to our church to get in, and it was like, hey, you go join that group, Most of them wouldn't. Like, they would get there, and no matter how you tried, they would realize they're an outsider. They don't know all the intimate stuff that you do. So what we do is we close down, and then we open it up for everybody at the same time. You know why we do that? We do that for these 1,500 people. Now, I know some of you don't like the semester system, and here's why. Because you say, I'm not really able to grow deep in relationships. But you know what? That doesn't have to be. In fact, we have not emphasized this as much as we should. You should re-invite people that have been in your group back to your group. Now, we're still going to open it, but there are 2 or 3 people that you've begun to connect with that you need to re-invite so you can continue your relationship with them. And as it grows, eventually they'll be leaders, but your relationship will have grown beyond group by that time, or at least I hope so. Let me say this: if you are in an accelerated growth group, if that's what you're leading, it is vitally important, because yours is a small, closed group. You must over and over and over remind them that you are doing this with them so they can do this with someone else when you finish. You're the only kind of group that has a covenant that your members sign to say, I am doing this and I will do this with someone else at least a year after we're finished. So let me tell you what you can do specifically. I want to challenge you not just to re-invite a few people in your group. You need to invite people. I want to challenge you to write down 5 names of people that are not connected that you can invite personally to be in your group. I'm saying do more than just text them, more than just email them, more than just Facebook them, do all those things, but more even than face-to-face say, I'd love to have you as a part of my group this semester. I'm asking you to pray. I'm asking you to fast. I'm asking you to go without a meal and cry out to God and say, I know somebody who's not connected, that I want to be connected in my group. I want to encourage you to do that.